So yeah, welcome everyone to the first workshop. It'll be about entrepreneurship, and it'll be with the amazing Hanson Grant from ThinkBoard. So this is just a disclaimer that this meeting will be recorded, and then your presence in this meeting will indicate that you are being consented to be recorded. And then if you're not comfortable with being recorded, just please exit the meeting now, and then you'll be able to access the recording after this meeting. So. Yeah, so a little introduction about Hanson. He is the CEO of ThinkBoard. It's like a company that makes like kind of these like whiteboards. And then he was a 2016 graduate from Babson College. And then he was recognized as one of the top 25 student entrepreneurs in the US in 2016. And then ThinkBoard was also named the top collegiate consumer brand in the US. And then he was also the winner of the Babson Beta Challenge. And then on his free time, he can be found rollerblading around town, teaching entrepreneurship and working remotely from Airbnbs in exotic countries. So if anyone has any questions throughout the event, just feel free to put your questions in the chat. And then at the end, after he's like finished talking, then we'll have time for Q&A then. So, but yeah, Hanson, take it away.
Sounds good. Thanks for the intro. And yeah, as far as questions, it's much more engaging when people are asking questions during my talks. So I've got the chat open. Feel free to pop any questions in if you want me to chat about something a little bit further, and I'll try to glance at it and work some story or some information back into whatever I'm saying at the moment. But anyways, it's great to see all of your names, not faces, but that's okay. Um, always fun doing a Zoom talk, and crazy that this has become the standard now of me, giving presentations, talking into a computer, and how normal that's become over the past year and a few months. Um, Last time I was chatting at this event, things were pretty crazy. I'm not sure how many repeat guests we have from last year, but at the time there was so much going on. I mean, there's still so much going on, but personally in my life, in my business, things were getting pretty crazy with ThinkBoard, with face shields, with COVID, with my parents' company, with everything and anything you could possibly imagine that's relevant to life and business. And yeah, I'll definitely just kind of ramble in the best way possible about my experience as an entrepreneur, as a high school entrepreneur, as a college entrepreneur, post grad, what that's like, and then I can speak about COVID and how that's had an impact on the entire business and my life and stuff like that. And then hopefully dive into why that's relevant to you guys. And I mean, I guess I could just even start with that because I I got the joy and excitement of starting a business again during COVID, because it was running a business in an entirely new landscape. It was, I mean, yes, we did start a different business. We started face shields, and I'll get into this all and the how and the why later for anybody who wasn't at last year's presentation. But um, yeah, it was the uncomfortableness paired with the speed necessary, paired with the benefit that we are bringing to our community and society as a whole, um, paired with just that uncertainty and unknowingness as a young entrepreneur diving into something new. And so with you guys, with whatever you're building and working towards, whether it's something you're going to put together for a presentation tomorrow, or whether it's something that you're actually going to pursue, um, the exciting part for me about being an entrepreneur is this moment of the uncertainty. And when things get a little too certain, it gets boring, which is funny because that's normally the goal of starting a venture. Is like, I want to get this business to this point, so it's growing at this rate and sustainable and everything's working well. But when you so identify to the core as somebody who is a problem solver and looking for opportunities, it's interesting how it's interesting how that goes away 7 years into a business. So I've been running my company for 7 years. I started it while in college. Um, it's been a blast. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm still loving it every day, and I find myself constantly reinventing it a little bit to uh, to continue to spice it up a little bit and reach bigger markets, reach different markets, try different products, figure out different solutions. And just yesterday, I was faced with 3 or 4 different new problems and got pretty excited because it again felt like the center of COVID, starting a whole new company just to help as many people as we could. Not about the profit, not about branding or my ego or anything like that. Um, and so at this point in the game, there's snippets of that, but where you guys are, there's so much learning and uncertainty and excitement and wins and losses and conversations that you're about to have with whoever about a product or service that you guys are designing. So I'm excited for you guys because you're beginning your journey, if you're not already on it, towards kind of the the passion that fuels my day to day as well. So pretty exciting to hear. But going back, way back, I mean, I could go super far back to when I was 5 years old. And sorry, I've got a cat that I just found out is in this Airbnb with me. Friend's Airbnb, not a random Airbnb that comes with a cat. But oh my gosh, it's climbing on me. That's hilarious. Well, this kitty's now part of the presentation. So um, yeah, I mean, I could speak for days. I mean, I've been running this one business for 7 years, and so it's interesting how to try to grab that and throw it into some lessons in just an hour of talking. And I try not to make it an hour because I want you guys to ask questions because it's way more relevant to you guys. So again, if there's things you want me to talk about, hop in the chat and spit them out so I can reference them. Still love this cat. It's probably sitting here for the whole hour. But anyways, so because you guys are not 5 years old, I'll skip past some of that and I'll show you the cat. And so I'll just jump straight into ThinkBoard because the relevant stuff is how we kind of got into the face shields and floor graphics and everything COVID related and reinvented part of the business that way. So as a college student, I went to Babson College. It's an excellent school for entrepreneurship. I really enjoyed it. And the freshman year program, we are supposed to create a business with our classmates. And so that's exactly what we did. We brainstormed ideas, we got teams together, we pitched ideas, yada, yada, yada. Ended up coming up with some random sunglass company, and we were going to brand it to be, I don't know, fancy in some way. And then, wow, parallel to COVID, fortunately and unfortunately, the Boston Marathon bombing happened a week before our final presentation. And so it immediately pivoted to like, wow, like there's this opportunity to help a large portion of the community that we're surrounded by in Boston. And so we immediately decided we're gonna print Boston Strong on one side, the skyline of Boston on the other, and we're gonna raise money for the one fund. The point of the class was to donate the money at the end anyways, but I felt that this was just like too good of an opportunity to raise pride in Boston, raise money for this fund, and have the class experience. So we ended up pivoting on a dime, bought all the inventory, and long story short, ended up selling out multiple times over. We were one of the most successful companies that's come through the program in the last 25 years. And the insane and kind of amazing part of that was that I got to work with some of my best friends and work next to them and work through all the challenges. And at the end of it, we looked at each other because we closed down the business at the end of the semester, and we said, wow, like that was really fun. That was a really good experience, and we should totally do that again. Consumer product selling online. Let's try to do something like that. So we decided that one night a week we'd party, but then the other weekend night we'd brainstorm in my dorm room. So we needed a whiteboard for our space, and decided it was probably a bad idea to steal one from the classrooms. So my parents have a graphics company that I ended up going back to, and found some sort of vinyl film that worked well enough. It was really not a good solution, but it was fine, and it served our purpose. And it was the MVP essentially that I created that I hadn't really known I was creating. And so we started brainstorming every, once a week, twice a week. Friends would come into my room and we'd be writing ideas down on this giant plastic sticker on the wall. And they'd be like, what's going on here? And I'm like, oh, let me tell you about my business ideas. They're so good. And after pitching them for like 20 minutes and them pulling their hair out, they said, no, I don't think you should do any of those, but like this whiteboard thing, can I get one for my room? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I started making them for friends. My dad shipped me a roll of this vinyl stuff, and I bought some markers and exposed spray cleaner because you needed a lot of exposed spray cleaner to clean the whiteboard. And so I started making them for friends, and then friends of friends reached out and they said, wow, like this is cool. Like, where can I get one? And then I'm like, hey, like $20, like I'll get you one. And so a lot of people on campus started buying them, and the demand just continued to grow. And so I ended up creating a website and made an installation video, and kind of tried to streamline the whole process to make it easier for people to order the product. Couple months later, ended up doing a Kickstarter video for my class project, and that ended up evolving into our actual Kickstarter video, which we launched that summer. Um, and what was interesting about that was it was my sophomore year of school. I wasn't certain that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, although I kind of secretly had been one my whole life without knowing it. Um, and my parents didn't really want me to start my own business while in school. They wanted me to focus on school. So the Kickstarter was the perfect combo of market validation. Is this going to be a product that people actually want if I put it out in the world and talk to people that don't know who I am? Are they going to buy it, or are people just supporting me because this is my little business and people want to help Hanson? So that was one side of it, and the other side was like parental validation. Um, which is interesting because my mom was pretty supportive, but my dad didn't complete college, and so he was very much in the mindset of go to college, like finish, get your degree, that's most important, and then we can worry about you starting a business or whatever. And he has the giant graphics company that sells all the printers and ink and material to make stuff like my product. And he looked at this one clear sticker whiteboard, like there's no way you can make this like a real business, because like look at how much it takes to run a real business. So it was pretty interesting. And of course I'm speaking to you today, so the Kickstarter did get funded. I did continue with the business, and that just kind of like set things off into beautiful combination of events that led to more online visitors, more sales, more press, more people being excited and interested about the product, people talking about the product to their friends and to their family and to their schools reaching out wanting it in their classrooms, not just in dorm rooms, because that's kind of the original need for the product. And so things started to quickly take shape in this unique way, which is not really unique. It's just kind of me blindly, but not quite blindly, going into this venture saying, here's a product that I think is really cool, and tell me how you're using it. Tell me what gets you excited about it. And what's interesting about that is it's kind of the opposite of what you learn in school is. And again, if I'm going to teach people how to start a business, in a methodical way, I'd probably tell them the come up with an idea, come up with 50 ideas, and then do research into all 50 of the ideas, and then talk to 100 customers from the idea you select, and like make sure they're good, and then figure out how you're gonna tackle that and get funding and all this stuff. And I mean that kind of is the way to do it. But as a young entrepreneur without all the resources and time and honestly attention span and energy to start a company from scratch like that, it was really interesting that it kind of just organically flowed the way it did. And the reason I bring that up to you guys in particular is because if you do create some sort of MVP that's a solution to anything in any industry, I believe the best thing you can do is share that, and not share it, just by giving it away, but tell people about it. Call up a nurse and be like, hey, like, call up your aunt or your cousin or your mom's friend or your dad's whoever, like, call up anybody you know that is potentially a customer for what you created and talk to them about it. And either they'll be like, oh, that's a nice idea, um, or they'll be like, oh my god, like this is this is great. Like I need to tell my boss or my supervisor. And you're like, wait, it's not ready yet, but like, can we keep chatting, and can we keep developing this idea? And what's interesting about thinkboard is the products that we're selling right now, um, the most of are not products we started with. We had schools reach out to us and say like, hey, we'd love to use these think boards on our desks. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I'd thought about that, but like we never pursued that, but I'd be happy to send you a classroom set for free. Actually, I think they bought it because they're so excited about it. And so we went to that school like every other week, and we're like, hey, let's figure out how we can make this a better product, because it wasn't a whiteboard to begin with, if you remember, and it didn't really work more than like 3 weeks. And the teacher paid for it, so I felt the moral obligation to obviously make it right. So we're like, okay. We've been testing this new film. Like, let's try this. And so me working with the customer instead of some business advisors that know not much about kind of the whiteboard space. Um, the reason I'm mentioning it is because I believe that that's like the number one key to our success, is that I picked up the phone from Holly, the middle school Spanish teacher in Watertown, Massachusetts, and I said, yeah, let's talk about this. Like, how would this make sense? And can you work with me to figure out like what the best design? Does it wrap around the desk? Is it notched at the corners so the kids don't pick it up? Like, and so we co-created this product with them and worked over the next year to make it the best product we could. We ended up finding a better film that could go over the surfaces and lasted much, much longer. We strengthened the adhesive. There's so many things about just that one teacher relationship we had that helped us crazy improve the product. Oh, somebody's talking. Are you asking a question? Nope.
Yeah, sorry. Save the questions at the end, and then I'll mute everyone. Sorry about that.
No worries. But also against what William said, if you do have some random inserts of like, oh my god, that sounds so cool, just put it in the chat. But like real questions, we'll save for the end, and I'll leave plenty of time for that. Anyways, this is like 6 years ago, so I gotta speed things up. Anyways, but that's the important stuff, is how things kind of got to where they are, not the stuff right now of like, yeah, things are going well. We're working with co-working spaces and colleges and schools and awesome companies like Adobe or Shopify or Amazon. Like that's cool too. But what's even cooler, in my opinion, is how things kind of came to fruition. And so what's interesting about that school relationship is they're a pretty horrible customer now. They don't really buy from us, but we learned so much from Holly and Holly's assistant principal and Holly's principal and the students, and we've got videos and testimonials, and that got us, into more schools. And what it ended up doing is it got us into a conversation with a facilities manager at my school, Babson, after I graduated. And they said, hey, like, we have these whiteboards in our classroom. They're pretty dirty. We're going to replace them. It's going to cost $20,000 to rip this system off the wall, because it's like this massive sliding whiteboard system. And then, to put a new system in. Said, I know you guys have this whiteboard film. Like, can you just put that over the old whiteboards? And me being young and ambitious, I said, yeah, of course we can. And this has happened more than one time. It's happened probably 3 or 4 times where I was like praying a deal wouldn't go through, because I had no idea how we were actually going to fulfill the order and make them happy. So we only had a clear product at the time. They were super dirty whiteboards. And we had just kind of come up with this new product for the schools to make it last even longer for the desks. I talked to my business partner. I said, okay, we'll take this clear film, we'll put this other like super ultra high quality film on top of it, and then we're just going to bleach the whiteboards. So we brought like a ton of bleach and we just sprayed the hell out of the boards and brought them back to, white-ish color. And we thought that was fine because they were going to get rid of the boards anyways. And so we put them on, we put our film on. We had no idea if it was going to work, and we sat down and met with the facilities director like 3 months later, and we're like, so like, how are they holding up? Do like, do we need to replace anything? And he goes, honestly, you guys, like, if this is going to last as long as you say it's going to last, you could have charged us like twice the price. And we're like, wait, really? They're working? And he's like, yeah, they're amazing. We want to cover. He did 2 classrooms. It was like a $4,000 deal. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And he's like, yeah, we want to cover the whole building. And we were freaking out. And so we ended up taking that feedback, realizing what worked. The bleaching didn't work. So we got a white base film that was like fully opaque. So the dirty stains wouldn't like bleed through. Like if you held up a piece of paper to it, you'd probably see the stains underneath. So we had to make sure it wouldn't do that. And so we ended up creating this entirely new product for Babson. And it was one of the largest orders we'd ever gotten. It was consistently, anytime they ordered, the largest order we'd ever gotten. And what was amazing about that is it was a whole nother product, a whole nother industry, a whole nother business, just like going from, selling peel and stick on the wall in dorm rooms to selling peel and stick on the desks in the classroom, and now covering old whiteboards. And oh my God, now that we made it white, we can cover old chalkboards and make them into whiteboards. And with schools moving, advancing their technology, there's a lot of stuff with chalk dust, and chalk dust can't get into technology. Students are allergic to chalk dust and like all this stuff. So like, regardless of if people are using their whiteboards or not, which a lot of students are, or a lot of schools are getting away from technology and getting whiteboards all around the space. Regardless of where they are in their life cycle of a customer, we can help them, which is awesome. So that conversation, that investment we made into just the conversation and understanding and the willingness to take on the potential disappointment from that client, helped us create a whole new product. And now that's probably our number one revenue driving and profit driving product. And we're covering entire schools now that, like, next month we'll be working with St. Louis Public Schools, Baltimore Public Schools, Boston Public Schools, my hometown's public schools, and then a bunch of co-working spaces and offices around the country, which is insane because that all happened from this one product that we created for this one client. And now there's just so much demand for it. We realized the reason for that. Anyways, there's more stories like this, which is crazy because there's a scannable version we ended up creating, and we co-launched a Kickstarter. You can look it up on your own time. It did very well. Now that product is sold in like Walmart and Staples and Targets around the world, which is insane because we're a 2-person company. We're super small, but our brand reaches, almost every country in the world, which is really cool to say out loud because I normally don't say that out loud. But yeah, we're a super small company, but we've continued to prioritize making the product better and better and better. And I don't know if that's because we started out so like basic with an MVP, or if it's just because that's what I firmly believe. I mean, I know that if there's a think board on this fridge in this, apartment, and friends come in, people are looking at this clear calendar or clear shopping list or whatever on the fridge, and like, oh my God, like you're writing on your fridge. And like, I know that the better quality of the product, the more people are to talk about it. So there's that. But then there's also the fact that we've just made continuous improvement part of our company culture. And that's whether it's with the website or our emails or the sales calls we make or the product itself or the way we approach unhappy customers. Like everything has always been like once a year, like what could be better about this interaction? I built an automation of let's include a tiny little custom think board in every think board that's sold on Amazon, and then tell people to come to the website and punch in their custom quote, whatever. They come to our site, they punch in on a Google form, like, I'm looking for this size with this design, blah, blah, blah. And then that goes to a Google Sheet, which then sends through a Zapier automation over to our email channel, which then sends a personalized email 3 minutes later from me saying, like, hey, thanks for reaching out on our site. Like, really great that you're excited about ThinkBoard. You asked for insert blank, which is going to come out to insert price. And I'd be happy to chat on the phone. Feel free to call us here. If you have any questions, let me know. And so that was just 2 years ago. I built that as a, like, just to save us time and also make the customer thrilled that, oh my God, like, I punched in this request and 3 minutes later they got back to me. That's amazing. And so building tools like that has allowed us to, yeah, be a two-person company, and Amazon or Netflix or Adobe can just reach out on the site and then ping, email from me, asking them how we can help, and quoting them and all that stuff. So anyways, rambling about continuous improvement and quality of products, but yeah, I think, I mean, where you guys are at is intimidating, because you could look at the traditional route, of like, I need to make sure the product's perfect before market. We need to get $50,000 in funding to build the app, and we need, $100,000 for Facebook ads to get people excited. And I would say it depends, but most of the time you might be able to do it a different way, and to challenge that, and to not always be thinking that, like, you need to go the Shark Tank route or whatever the media. I can't remember the numbers, but it's a crazy small amount of businesses that raise money, but it's normalized, and it's like, if you're gonna start a company, obviously everybody watching is probably like, yeah, like, that's part of the process. Like, you do your pre-seed round, then you do your seed round, and then you do your A, and then your B, and then you get bought out and whatever. But for me, small business and entrepreneurship, it it can be more than that, and it can be for your lifestyle. I'm in this awesome cabin right now at a lake on a Saturday, so it's not but I could be like, sometimes I'll just work from here, and this is a sweet spot to hang out. And I tried to build the business and into my lifestyle, because this is what's important to me, and not just crazy growth and raising tons of money and having all the stress and employees and investors and expectations and all of that. So I challenge you to ponder what the alternative is. I have friends that come to me once a month saying, hey, like, I want to build this app, kind of like like, can I, actually, this is going on YouTube, so I'm not going to tell her idea, but it was kind of, imagine a dating app that, you're swiping through and you're kind of, deciding. And I said, to build the MVP, to get people excited about it, and to build a wait list of 1,000 people who are ready to use this app once it's built, just take a bunch of photos and put them in a photo album in order, just to kind of simulate that experience for them. You don't need some crazy app to, be built before you show anybody what your idea is. And I firmly believe it's better to show people what you're working on way before it's ready. The founder of LinkedIn has a famous quote around that. Something, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you launched too late. I'm horribly embarrassed by my first product. And if anybody ever tells me they supported the Kickstarter, I say, oh my gosh, can I send you a new one? Like, please. I don't want that product out in the wild. Like, nobody should be using that product. God forbid anybody sees that product. Let me send you the new premium one, and just, yeah, for free. But yeah, and that kind of segues into what happened with COVID with us. Was we had people reaching out saying, hey, you guys make clear plastic whiteboards. There's a huge shortage for face shields. Can you make clear plastic face shields? And me being me, I said, yeah, I think we can do this. Like, let's figure it out. So we reached out to our manufacturer, and they said, yeah, we've got a material that is thicker without an adhesive. We can send you that in rolls, and then we can cut it on our machines. we ended up getting them pre-cut for us. So they just came to us in a stack. And then we ended up just sticking foam and elastic bands with the staple guns that we have for, our normal tube packaging, and just kind of made it work. And I had, it was like April 1st that I was thinking like, how could we design these? And so I posted on Facebook and I said, hey, I'm thinking about designing face shields. Does anybody know anything about making face shields? And so many of my friends like commented links of like, hey, here's somebody who's designing it from this college, and like, here's some other stuff. And like, I really think these ones are really cool. Like, you guys should try that. And we had this crazy window of time when things were backed up. China was producing face shields, but to get them over to the US and distributed and everything, it was going to take about a month. And we knew that. And so we decided we're just going to run this business for a month, most likely. We're not going to go crazy. We're going to do just in time manufacturing, which means we're going to get orders and then make sure we have the, like, we're going to see an order, we're going to have inventory come in, we're going to produce it that day and ship it out. And that way, you know, turnaround time was like 3 days from when a customer ordered to when we could, be shipping it and have them delivered maybe 2 days later. So we, like, from a business standpoint, we made sure that, like, we weren't going to just be holding tens of thousands of dollars worth of raw materials for face shields. Right now we probably have 100 we could still make. But I posted on Facebook one day, got connected to some resources. A friend of mine put me in touch with his mom, who worked at the hospital locally, and was like, talk to each other, please. So like, I ended up hopping on the phone with her, and she gave me pretty much my entire sales pitch for why face shields are important. If anybody's questioning it from like a hospital standpoint, I called the local hospitals. I posted on Facebook that we're going to start selling these before making a single one. I just made one prototype, but we pretty much went from, I think, April 1st, making some weird prototype out of paper and stuff, posting that on Facebook. April 6th, ordering the materials, in April 10th, launching on our website, and we ended up selling 6,000 face shields over the course of the month, which was insane. And it was so wild and so exciting and so rewarding, because we were getting all these thank you notes from nurses and hospitals saying like how important the work we were doing was. And what's cool is a lot of companies did it, and it wasn't in a competitive way. It was like, wow, like, this is amazing that you guys are also, putting your time and your resources into it. Because the pandemic was just starting, and we had closed down um, my family's business and made it go remote for the next 3 months. So we had all this space, and we said, yeah, let's do this. And so it kind of gave us purpose during COVID, which was really cool, and allowed us to kind of, give that value back to the community, which kind of goes back to the Boston Marathon bombing and everything that happened there. Kind of relates to the schools we've worked with, whether they're super low income schools in a inner city area, whether they're international schools that, we're donating product to, or whether it's the super fancy private schools we work with in Boston that are trying to cover, floor to ceiling, 360 around the classroom. So the purpose of the COVID story is to kind of share that, yeah, 6 years at that time, 6 years into my business, I got like this new spark of like this new idea, this new thing we can do, this new way to add value to society, to my local community, to our, workers, which was my family. And it just felt amazing to kind of be back in that. So that's, again, the way that we try to approach the business now, through continuous improvement. And if, I guess, my whole lesson with this is, and we can jump into Q&A in a moment, because then I ramble with questions and stuff. So I can go on and on. But I guess my whole point is, if continuous improvement is your like North Star of the business, then like launch that MVP. And whether you're building a Google Chrome extension, Google Sheet add-on, some sort of website that connects, dog walkers to dog owners, or anything like that, or in the healthcare industry that I'm not as familiar with, other than face shields and intubation boxes, face masks a little bit. We almost sold those. But the point is, talk to people about your ideas. And that's what I did with the whiteboard on the wall. I was like, here's my ideas, like tear them apart. And what's cool about that is it gives you the chance to defend your idea and build it, but then also gives you the chance to hear feedback. And the feedback is what got us in the classrooms. It's what got us in Babson College to do the whiteboard chalkboard resurfacing. It's what got us the scannable version of the product, which is now sold all across the world. And so by listening to your customers and being okay with their feedback and their criticism, um, I think is the most important thing. And I guess I'll kind of pseudo end it there, hop in for questions. I'd love to see what you guys have to, what about what I just said is exciting and what you want me to dive deeper down. But yeah, and thank you for helping me realize that, continuous improvement, starting from where we started to now, is kind of the entire approach to the business. And when you just put quality and um, you know a better experience for you, for your employees, for your customers, for everybody involved in the process, at the forefront of doing business, I think naturally just becomes pretty successful because you're constantly improving it.
Yeah, thank you, Hanson, for that. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop in the chat.
If not, I'll just keep rambling for 20 minutes.
Or yeah, I mean, we can end in 10 minutes because yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, okay. There's a private message for but yeah, the question is like, what 3 tips would you give someone who's like interested in like starting a startup in like college or even high school or any stage in life?
I think the thing that comes to my mind first is, this is good, because they're the opposite. One is prioritizing your time, which is kind of an obvious one. In college, I didn't really play video games. I didn't watch Netflix, and just cutting those 2 things out allowed me to sleep 8 hours a night, run a business, get good grades, eat healthy, and have a good social life. So peeling away things that are not necessarily feeding you. And again, if Netflix is your way to kind of de-stress at the end of the day, awesome. Like, don't get rid of that because that's important to your mental health. But there's definitely, you could audit your time and think about, you could take notes for 2 weeks about what you're spending your time on, and then realize, I'm spending a lot of time watching Netflix and I don't actually get that much joy from it. I think I would really enjoy building the website or talking to customers more so than that. So could remove, because when you're in college and high school, there's so much going on, and it's really hard to prioritize, um, sitting down and focusing on the business. But kind of similar to that, but then also the opposite would be patience. I feel like I'm 7 years into this business, and we've needed this much time to develop the relationships we've developed and get the product to the quality that it's at, that I could knock on Facebook's door and say, hey, our product's way better than what you're using. But back then, if I was just going super fast, then we would have been trying to sell a product faster than the product was ready to be sold to those customers. And I know that I'm confused with what I just said, but I think my point is that I think as an entrepreneur, it's burning out is glorified in this weird way that it's not, and everybody knows, like, no, don't burn out. But I think people get excited about the idea of staying up till 4 in the morning and then waking up at 6 and hustle, hustle, hustle. And I think understanding that the business is going to flow as it does, and when you're putting in passionate time to your business, that is 10 times more important than putting in time, because just putting in hours and grunt work might not actually be what's important, because if you're not in flow with the business and your customers and your team, then you're just putting in hours to something that you're probably going to pivot away from weeks later or months later. And so just kind of recognizing the ebbs and flows of the nature of your business. It's kind of like the ebbs and flows of the nature of a friendship. Like you're not like every night hanging out with that friend. It's like, yeah, I haven't seen them in 3 months. Don't take a 3 month break from your business, but um, it's not like that's fine. It's like I'm super excited to spend this whole week with this friend now, and then maybe I won't see them for 3 weeks, and that's fine. And then we'll grab coffee and hang out that night, something like that. Um, I don't believe a business is any different than that because um, when you're present, when you're there, when you're passionate, things happen. Amazing things start to flow. But when you're just kind of grinding away, just because you think you're supposed to, I find things don't actually kind of flow. And I'm a little like woo woo with like if you put stuff out into the universe, things kind of come back because it's happened like 100 times. It happened. We got a giant order yesterday, and I was talking about them 20 minutes before they emailed. And you could be like, that's just a coincidence. But like those coincidences happen all the time. But only when I'm like super, super like excited and passionate about the business. If I'm just kind of like, mundanely working away at it, things just kind of seem like a force and they're not happening naturally. So that's kind of 3 tips. Was prioritize your time, be patient, and then ride the ebbs and flows as you do.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I think we have time for like three more questions. So,
There's a ton coming
Harold,
in.
yeah, so Harold asked, how did you think of the pricing of your products?
Totally random. Um, it's funny because everybody told me like you can't change your pricing, like you can't lower your pricing. You can only no, you can't raise your pricing. You can only lower it, which is totally the opposite of what we did because we've just steadily been increasing our price. Um, there's A/B tests you can run. You can send people to one landing page that's split into that says $35 and $45. You can math them. I say this in like a discouraged way because we don't do it. We probably should have, but and I would recommend it because I think that's awesome if you can figure out how to do that. I mean, Google has some sort of A/B split that you can do, but yeah, I mean, you could say like send 100 people to each site and do how many people click add to cart on this side and how many people click on this side, and what's more profitable is getting if your product sells for $35 but it costs you $10 and you offer free shipping, so then you're paying $10 in shipping, you're walking away with $15, and then fees and whatever, maybe you're walking away with $12. But if you increase the price $10, you're walking away with $22 because you're already paying the cost and the shipping and the fees and all of that. And so you're almost doubling your profit. So most people would be like, oh, but the revenue was higher on this one. And the real answer is, well, what's more profitable? And if you're doing one product, the profit on that first purchase matters. If you're a subscription, it doesn't matter as much. So it really depends on the business. But yeah, I just started at 20 and then I did $25 for the Kickstarter. But then I realized that I accidentally said free shipping. So we pretty much made no money on the Kickstarter, but it was great because 200 new people got to have a ThinkBoard in their home. So we totally messed that up. And then we went to $30 with free shipping, and then we did $35. But then if you spend $40 or more, you get free shipping. So then that incentivizes them. So like the goal with a consumer product business is to increase the average cart value. So getting people to buy more in that one time is way more important than getting them to buy twice or 3 times, because it's hard to get them to come back and get to that point where they're going to buy. But if you're saying, I want a ThinkBoard for my desk so I can like draw out ideas, and then it's like, hey, do you also want one for your fridge so you can make a shopping list? They're like, yeah, I do. Instead of getting one for their desk and then sending them an email saying, hey, do you want one for your fridge? It takes a lot longer to, plus you can package them together and ship them together. It saves money. So we kind of just feel it out. And at this point with this volume, you can kind of see things dip down if we raise the prices. And it's like, is that worth it? Like, and we run some numbers. Like last month it was priced at this and we sold this many units. This month we priced it here and we sold this many. What's the profit? And depends. So yeah, so totally random. But then also we doubled that price for Babson. We were charging 350 a square foot um, for the base film, and then he said we could double it, so we did. We charged $7 a square foot. And what's really cool about that is we sell. That means like we sell a 4 by 12 for metric. That's 1.2 by 3.6 meters. Um, we sell that big of a board for $300. Now, actually, 400. We raised the prices because we raised the quality. It's the only reason we raised the prices. But you come into a student and like, oh my gosh, $400 for a product that big. Like I can't do that. But you go to a school and you say, hey, like compared to the $1,000 you were going to spend, $400. And they're like, no way. Free shipping. And you'll install it if we order 10 or more. Yeah. And so what's cool is you like your customers aren't this one group of people who know your every move. So sometimes I'll just, be working with a school and I'll totally lower the price because I understand they're solving for cost. But then other times people are solving for like the most premium option. And it's like, yeah, we can do that. And if you want, we can make it magnetic, which doubles the price, but then it's magnetic. And so people get excited about that. So really I feel it out, but only a few times have people like balked at our prices like, are you kidding me? Like you're gonna charge that? Most of the time people are like, for if it does what you say it's going to do and that quality it's going to last that long, is a good price. And I like to hear that. So we don't want to price it too much higher than those comments, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, okay. I think we have one last question if you don't mind. So, Amy in the chat, she asked, how do you turn an idea into a real product with the manufacturing and distribution process?
I could also rapid fire these questions if you want.
Oh yeah, that'd be better. Yeah, because we should end, like we have a workshop at 2 o'clock, so yeah.
Yeah, all good. Okay, so how do you turn an idea into a real product? Um, the short answer is connections, but it's not like I have connections. It's like building connections and fostering relationships. It started out as that MVP product that wasn't that good, and then we got another version of it just based on like this is the same properties of this vinyl material, but it's a little thicker. So I think it's going to solve some of our customers' problems. Then we started going to trade shows in a similar industry, and we started connecting with manufacturers who make films that are similar. We say, hey, like, is it possible to do, this coating, this adhesive, this thickness? And a lot of them say, yeah, we're actually doing something that's very similar. Like we can totally do that for you. And so that was year 3 that happened. But then year 4, it happened with another manufacturer. And then year 6, we finally worked with a small scale manufacturer and specced out the entire product from end to end. And it was way more expensive. We never could have afforded it before year 6, but we had been talking to them for the last year and a half or so. I'd seen them at a trade show and I knew that their product was like, they had some really good qualities about like their existing product line that I really liked. An example I was talking to somebody else about was some sort of like machine that deposits like a tap to pay card. And I was like, okay, where else, what other industries do you know that have tap to pay machines? And the first thing I thought of was like a subway terminal. Like, I don't know if you're in the Boston subway, it's tap. If you're in New York, it's swipe. If you're DC, it's tap. If you're in Bangkok, it's a coin, whatever. Doesn't matter. But the point is, like, that's where I'd start. I would reach out to Boston Transit and call them and be like, hey, like, who's the manufacturer for these machines? Like, I want to build some. Then you go talk to them and you're like, hey, like, I'm trying to build something like this. And you do the almost exact same thing. Can we talk? And so that's how I'd go about doing it. But again, I didn't have like a hardware. I mean, it is technically hard. You get the point. All right. Especially in uncertain times and within brand new products, which you've done before. How do you go about finding and discover product market fit?
Yeah, if you don't mind, if this could be the last question. Yeah, we're running low on time. Yeah.
We'll do it. It's like, yeah, so with COVID, with the face shields, we had a bit of an email list. So we could email, a couple tens of thousands of people and just be like, this is what we're doing. Tell us, who that would benefit from this. And so that's the same, slight advantage because we have customers that know us and like us. But it's pretty much just talking to a bunch of people and saying, hey, like we're doing this. What do you think of it? And they're like, oh my God, like my brother's a chiropractor and they need face shields because they're working with patients. And so and so's a I mean, I have an uncle who's a chiropractor, an aunt who's a dentist, cousin who sells products to dentists, an aunt who's a nurse, a big Italian family. Um, but my point is I called my cousin who sells to dentists. I was like, is this needed? And he's like, yeah, like some of our clients are talking about it. And then I called my aunt who's a dentist and she's like, yes, totally, but it needs to be specced out in a perfect way so that little eyeglasses can go under the face shield. And then I talked to my cousin who's a nurse and she's like, this is needed, but like they really only buy from like these massive distribution companies. And so what we ended up finding was we pretty much said forward this email to anybody who you think is going to benefit from it, and customers forwarded the email along. And what was amazing is how similar it was. It ended up landing on dentists, chiropractors, and like small private practice doctors, because the hospitals and the bigger guys, they kind of already had connections, and larger companies probably reached out to them first. And so we just kind of like organically put this product out and we said, here's what we've created. If anybody wants it, just like click buy. And then if anybody, if no, like, and this happens all the time, we put a product out, we put a buy button, and then nobody buys. And we send an email to everybody and nobody buys. I'm like, all right, that product doesn't exist as of today. And that's probably what I thought the face shield was going to be, because that's normally what happens. We try something, people are like, that's okay. Maybe one or two people buy, and we like, make some MVP version of it. And then that's it. But with face shield, yeah, people forwarded it. And all the orders that came in, we researched them. We're like, what's this location? Who is this kind of person? Oh, it's another dentist. Oh my God, another dentist. Wow, another dentist. Then I realized somebody in a dentist Facebook group posted about it. All these dentist spots. So yeah, Facebook groups, stuff like that. Anyways, that's my show.
All right. Thank you so much, Hanson. It was a great talk. And then hopefully, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And then, yeah, I'll see you later then. Thank you.
No problem.